Ohayo.
Ohio.
Welcome to Soul Japanese Podcast that we talk all things about Japan from a Japanese
and a foreigner's perspective.
We are your host. My name is Ryusuke.
And my name is Matt. Thank you for joining us today.
ありがとうございます。
Is this your creepy, spooky voice?
Yes.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。So, yeah, why we talk this way? What's the episode? Yeah.
We're being creepy for a reason. So today's episode, we're talking about Kaidan, or AKA Japanese scary stories.
Mm-hmm.
So we're introducing this because like it's kind of its own category and there's a lot of like things around it we can talk about. So we're gonna give you the gist today about it. I love Kaidan.
Yeah.
I love all Japanese supernatural stuff personally.
So in general, do you like horror story?
Yeah, like I'm a horror fan first of all.
Yeah. Okay.
I loved J-horror. I love Junji Ito, wearing a Junji Ito shirt.
Ooh, cool.
So there's a lot of, this is sort of like the base for that. And, but there's a reason why we're talking about it now, and you might be wondering, like, why are we posting an episode about Kaidan and scary stories in August? And the reason is, the gist of it is that August or end of summer is basically the Halloween season of Japan traditionally. So, you know, October in the West, but it's in August, summertime is like the haunting, scary season in Japan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also because it's hot, right?
Yeah.
Japanese thinking something about horror movie helps cool it down.
Yeah, I love that idea. So there's a few reasons, and we'll get into it. One of the things is like, yeah, you know, the chill you get from being scared and spooked or creeped out by something is like it's like a cooling thing. It makes you feel cold in the dead hot summer of Japan. And I would say, yeah, that makes sense, you know what I mean? And but the other reason too, from what I understand, is like, if anyone's familiar with the festival of Obon, or Japanese kind of festival of the dead, this is the season of like ghosts. This is like, people are historically, traditionally, you're thinking about ghosts, you're thinking about the spirits of the dead coming back to the land of the living. It's thought of like the time when these barriers are thin, very much like how October is viewed in Western countries, Western culture. So it's like, you're thinking about ghosts, you're thinking about the dead. It's like there's a lot of roots in Buddhism in Obon, so it's a Buddhist holiday. So it's like this idea of afterlife and death and stuff. And then also this idea of, you know, just like in Halloween, you know, you don't want to welcome back evil spirits. You don't want to welcome the wrong spirits into your home, or you're maybe you're afraid of that, you know, scary uncle or somebody in your family. I don't know, like, you don't want
became a monster and then come back.
You don't want, maybe there's certain people you don't want to visit you at this time of year. So it's like, I think that's just where like the association comes from. And I think I was mentioning, is it Shunbun?
Shunbun, yeah.
Shunbun is also like, which is more in September. It's also like the definitive, it's like the equinox when the world, these two worlds are believed to be thinnest. So it's very much similar to the same idea of like Halloween and when ghosts can cross over and demons and things. So that's the introduction. Like basically anything scary is just thought about, is associated with summertime in Japan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this the scary season. Like did you always feel like that when you were younger? Like you felt like, summertime, like spooky time too?
Because there's so many like horror, like special horror like TV show, and then like bunch of like horror storyteller documentary shows on TV. Like all like summer.
Yeah. I love that shit as a kid.
I
love those things.
I actually don't like horror story because I'll get very scared. I cannot even wash my hair.
You can't wash your hair? Why can't you wash your hair?
Because when you're washing your hair, you have to close your eyes and then you feel like is somebody. So like sometimes I have to wash like all like fully open my eyes and then like I'm scared. Yes. Yes. I know.
That's really
I know
fucking
it's
funny.
silly.
I love that. So you don't like horror at all? I didn't know
No,
that.
I
Okay.
remember. So one summer, my sister
Yeah.
started watching this like horror show,
Yeah.
and then I really didn't want to watch, but I
Okay.
think my parents still working, and then just me and her at the living room, and then like we have to share TV, unfortunately, and then she keeps saying like I gotta fucking watch this. Then the end of the day, I start crying because I really don't want to watch, and I don't even want to hear the sound because it gives me like scary
Like freaks you out,
anxiety.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this.
That's so. Oh my god!
Yeah,
I
it
thought you
became.
were a tough guy.
No, I was so sensitive.
Okay, I'm the opposite. Like as a kid, for me,
Yeah.
I loved ghosts, and I was obsessed
Really?
with ghosts. So I had a ghost hunter's book, like how to
Yeah.
identify ghosts and how to like find them or what, like haunted spots. I have this book.
Mm,
Like obviously listeners won't be able to see it, but if we put out a video later,
mm,
this book here, which is called
mm.
this part of this encyclopedia is called Phantom Encounters: Mysteries of
Yeah.
the Unknown. It's like
Yeah.
this series my grandparents had, and there's actually
Mm,
a whole section in it
mm.
that is just Japanese like ghost stories.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so there's also other stuff like other haunted places.
Mm.
And this book inspired me so much as a kid. Like I was
Wow.
obsessed with like these stories, and then
Mm,
also like there's like stuff about like the Tower of London and stuff
mm.
about like different parts of the world.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I've kind of made it a mission of mine to go to some of these places. So like
Ah.
2 years ago, I went to Tower of London, and when I was in Japan, I went to
Mm.
some haunted places as
Mm-hmm.
well. That I was like,
Mm-hmm.
so we'll talk about it later, but
Mm-hmm.
when I mention it later, but I was obsessed with that stuff from really young. Like I'm talking like 5, like 6, like
So
and
you
up.
never
Like
you never actually feel scared at all? Like
I would get scared, but
you wish
I
to see that ghost if you could?
no, it was like a love
That's
hate. It'd be like
okay. That's too
so cool,
yeah.
like fascinating, but I'd probably shit myself if I saw a
Of
ghost. Like
course. Of course.
my grandma who had all these books
Yeah.
would be like, she would be like, you know, you won't really see a ghost unless
Mm.
like you really are prepared or want to see a ghost, is what she would say, which I think is
Mm.
bullshit.
Mm.
It's just trying to make me feel better. But I would be like excited, but also terrified at the idea.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
that's so I always love ghost stories. I love a good creepy story. Big fan of
Mm-hmm.
horror, and
Mm-hmm.
I have a whole shelf of horror manga by a bunch of the famous
Cool.
like Junji Ito and
Yeah.
Kazuo.
Kazuo, who I know him. Yes.
You know, what I mean, he's
Yes.
like the
Yes.
He's like the inspiration for Junji Ito. So like
Yeah. Yes.
Cat-eyed boy and
Mm-hmm.
disappearing classroom and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I
Mm-hmm.
love these are very much like you could say the legacy of modern Japanese
Mm.
kaidan and my
Mm. Mm.
authors that are doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But to go back, I think we should cover the history a little bit more
Yep.
before I get too much into that because I'm getting excited now.
Mm-hmm.
So like I want to emphasize that like Japan really has like a long history of a love of scary stories.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'd say there's akin to like Victorian era England and stuff. Like the Edo period was like a very peak period. Like this is like 1600s to the late 1800s
Yes. Yeah.
Edo period where these stories really solidified in
Mm-hmm.
Japanese pop culture. Like a lot of it was like oral traditions before and folk tales,
Mm-hmm.
and Kaidan can kind of cover everything from like a ghost story to yokai.
Yokai.
I'm sure listeners are familiar with yokai.
Yeah.
Because yokai are a lot of the time like something that explains a strange phenomenon, right? Or something supernatural. And there are sometimes yokai that even are ghosts, or like a ghost almost becomes a yokai. There's a lot of crossover. So a lot of these, anything that was just like a weird tale, something spooky or strange, was considered kaidan. And usually, like, you'd have localized, right? You'd have each community, like different parts of Japan would have their own stories or versions of the same story. But it was the Edo period where these things really like started solidifying, and they became so popular that like some of the most well-known stories became the most famous like kabuki plays at the time. So like Yotsuya Kaidan, which is like you would say it's like, I would equate it to like when you watch a film these days and it's like based on true events, and it's kind of mysterious but also somewhat rooted in reality, but it's also fictional. It's like this famous ghost story kabuki play that became really popular, and based on some real events and also like folklore, and produced one of Japan's most famous ghosts, which is Oiwa. Who's this disfigured ghost that haunts and torments her murderer or whatever, the people she's after. She's a vengeful ghost. She'll appear in lanterns and things like that. So you see references to her a lot. So that period was really like that key point. But there's a tradition that also stems from during that time, and which is called and I don't know if you knew about this before, if there's a modern name for it, but it's like hyaku monogatari kaidankai. Which means like what, like 100 tales of strange tales, or something like that. And this is sort of stems from that long tradition of telling, everybody, I think every culture has that sort of history of telling spooky stories around a campfire. This was like a refined version of that, where people would play like it's like a parlor game where people would light maybe 100 candles or a bunch of candles, and every time you'd tell a scary story, you'd put out a candle so that it'd get darker and darker and darker, which sounds a lot of like really fun. It sounds actually fun for this. I would do this today. I think we should like do this. Get some friends. And tell some spooky stories. Maybe I'll try this for Halloween.
That's actually a good idea.
It's a good idea. And so the idea is that, if you're brave enough to get to the end, when the last candle is put out, something spooky is supposed to appear. It's like you're unlocking a portal. It's like you're doing a seance, or doing, a Ouija board or something like that kind of vibe. It's like who would dare to get to the very end and see what happens and stuff.
I don't like that. It's so scary.
You don't like that?
So scary.
So you never did anything like that?
I always try to ignore. Well, but at the same time, yes, I go so many like a spooky spot in Japan, like tunnels and abandoned house tunnels. And abandoned hotels, and like when I was teenager, yes, we visit like so many of those places, and then like I always get so scared. But sometimes we do junken, and then we have to go just one person go all the way. And you guys need to know that we had a keitai that time, but still not as good as now. So, we have to bring our own light, and we junken, and then like, you go first. And then like, the rule was like, you're not gonna use your light. You have to go just your eye and hand. So you go like this. That's so scary.
That freaks me out. Did you do it?
I did it. I did it one tunnel. I did it one abandoned. Actually, that was cool.
Is it the famous one?
It's quite famous. Yes.
There's a few famous tunnels.
Yes, tunnel is actually very famous. Yes.
Okay. So I would just put a disclaimer that if you're a foreigner, don't do this.
Don't. really scary, and then sometimes this shit happen.
No. Yeah, no, I actually, there's a lot of YouTubers that do
Yeah.
this now too.
Oh, I see. I
Um,
see.
I would say that it's more risky if you're a foreigner visiting places like this because it's like you could be trespassing and
Yeah,
you don't know what you're
exactly.
doing
And sometimes somehow like there's a
you
like
can
a
get hurt.
yakuza, yeah, or yakuza people, or
Yeah.
like some other actually dangerous people there. Then
Oh, really?
they
Okay.
you might get in trouble with those people too. Because
Yeah, yeah.
how many times we just run away? Like million times we're like, there's someone, let's go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
I I would have loved that as a kid. I would have
It-
been I would have been right there with you. I would have
yeah,
been like
yeah,
100% into that.
yeah,
I always want to do that. Like,
yeah.
there's like there's like an old abandoned house
Mm,
in this like field in my
mm,
hometown that I
mm,
always wanted to check out, but it was
mm.
kind of too far to get to.
Yeah,
But I loved shit like that. I wanted to explore ruins and spooky places.
yeah. And then
And
always the spooky places had some backstory.
oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
right.
Like, oh,
Yes.
this house, there was used to be like a family there, but somehow the daughter passed away, and then somehow the son passed away, and it ended up everybody died, and that's why this house is abandoned. For example,
Oh
like
yeah.
someone made it up the story, then
Yeah.
we had that story, so like it's obviously extra scary, right?
Yeah, and the tunnel ones too, right? It's like
Yeah,
it was like abandoned like tunnel used for something else during the war or
yeah,
something. And then
exactly.
like somebody died there or whatever, and then like
Yeah,
then they had to board it up because like strange things happened
yeah,
or
yeah,
something dark happened. And so
yeah,
like, yeah, that's like a common thing, I think.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
kind of what do you call it today? It's still Kaidan?
yeah. I mean, kind of. That's
It's
okay.
like modern Kaidan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like there's also for modern ones there's like the ghost taxis. Like
E-
this is a pretty common type of ghost story found all over the
mm,
world.
mm,
But this idea of like picking up somebody on the side of the road like a hitchhiker,
mm.
and that's like it turns out they're a ghost.
Yeah, like
And
and like when the taxi driver check from the back
yeah,
mirror, and then this person was like gone, she's gone,
yeah,
and then the seat was wet or something like that.
yes,
Yes.
yeah, because usually like raining,
Yeah.
and the destination is like the place where they were killed or
Yeah.
they're buried
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of like stories like that.
Yeah.
I love that, and I
Yeah.
love that Japan's like has a very clear history of these kind
Mm,
of
mm,
stories, and that
mm.
there's like it's like carried forth into the modern world.
Yeah.
It's not just
Yeah.
old stories. It's like you've had new ones being born
Mm-hmm.
in the modern era,
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
same way, right? It's just
Yeah.
like the same people telling stories about weird things that happened,
Yeah.
and then they create an urban legend or something.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and what was I gonna say? So, I yeah, so that's like there's a long history here.
Yeah.
And then there's also like this is bled into like film and
Mm.
manga.
Mm.
If you want to see, if people are interested in like the classic stuff, I
Mm.
recommend there's like a film called Kaidan,
Yeah.
and I'm already forgetting the director's name.
Mm.
It's like a combination of some of the most popular stories.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think like Ugetsu Monogatari as well. These are old films that combine a kind of a mixture of different ghost stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the ghost stories personally, the classic ones.
Mm.
My favorite one is probably the story of Okiku
Yes. Is
or
that
Sancho Barashi.
okay?
Oh my god, is that the
That
right
I
one?
don't
Is that
know.
right? Yeah.
That I don't know.
It's like so Okiku. So the Okiku is a great example of this sort of probably modern. It's probably a urban legend of its time. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you go around Japan, there's
Mm-hmm.
different places that there's different versions of the tale,
Mm-hmm.
and what it boils down to is some formula of servant girl working for a samurai lord is
Mm.
either framed or blamed for like the breaking of like a precious plate. There's like 10 plates. Sometimes it's like imported Chinese plates that are kept as a family heirloom, or it's like Dutch plates. And she breaks one of these plates, and like either the mist that she's like the samurai was like lusting after her, like wanted her, but couldn't have her, or she refused him. And either he frames her, or like his wife or something frames her, and it's sort of like, oh, you broke a plate, like where's all the plates? And she tries counting them but can't find them, so they get rid of her, they kill her, and they throw her down a well. And so the well is like a key factor in the Okiku story, because basically after this happens, like in the story, the ghost returns and starts counting the plates, because it's like she was, like the servant girl that like was told she was wronged them in some way. So it's like the ghost is obsessed with counting the plates to find the plates to prove that she's innocent. And so the story usually goes that they're tormented night after night of the ghost a voice coming from the well, counting like 1, 2, 3. And finally they get a priest to exorcise this ghost. And the priest like just shouts out, once the ghost gets to 9, the priest shouts out 10. And the ghost is like satisfied with that. Okay, it's like they found the 10th, and then the ghost disappears. And Okiku's been done over and over and over again in so many ways, and in kabuki as well, and film. And that story is so popular that there's actually multiple wells around Japan that are claimed to be Okiku's well, because it's like, oh, this building was built on the former mansion of the samurai that Okiku worked for. And apparently, so do you know this story? Have you heard this?
No,
you know what I'm talking about?
No, I know, because I know the Okiku and Sarayashiki, but I just I just remember the well, and then go what?
And apparently it was like popular to throw people down wells, and like I don't know, or like there's a lot of other ghosts. There's other ghost stories about like throwing something down the well. There's even like a well yokai. So Gokiku is actually the modern version of that is ringu, or the ring. And anybody who's seen that, there's the whole Sadako, I think, who's the ghost in the well. And that's directly I love those films.
See? Now I'm cold.
Effective summer treatment when you have no AC.
Oh my gosh.
I'm actually currently reading the original Ring novels. So I have John got them, my partner got them for me a while back. So I'm still getting through the first book. It takes place in the 90s. It's great. It's so good as a book too. Like it's creepy as a book. It's the translated version. I'm not reading in Japanese, but the Ring is like a perfect example of like the historical Japanese folklore turning into like Edo period popular ghost story, turning into modern film, and continuing that theme,
it's so funny because the Ringu, they use the well, but also they use TV and a video, so that's the modern part, right? But they still kept the well. Why they don't use the toilet?
There should be a modern version now where it's like an iPhone. Like I don't know,
maybe the Sadako came up from the washlet. You know the bidet.
The washlet. That's perfect. A washlet. Does it make a sound effect? Oh my god, that'd be fun. That would be a great parody. I don't even know why they really have the well, but I think that they chose that in the book because it's such a clear resonates with Japanese audience, right? Like the well, the ghost. It's such a like ingrained idea of like a ghost. And so that story is like a really great example of that. And So so there's two things, just notes on Okiku and the ghost from the well, and how I mentioned that there's famous wells around Japan that claim to be hers. There apparently was a well on the grounds of the Canadian Embassy building in Tokyo.
Okay. So maybe
that
that
is
one?
considered Okiku's well. I have not seen this well. I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
I don't even know. It doesn't even make sense because it's a pretty big square building.
Yeah.
So I've never investigated that, but there's a claim. So I don't know if it's the Canadian Embassy or like the ambassador's residence, but apparently there's a well associated there with Okiku.
Okay.
And then the most famous one is the well at Himeji Castle in Hyogo. So if you've seen that classic, like beautiful, huge Japanese castle on any promotional material for Japan or TikToks, whatever, that's Himeji Castle. And I got to go there. And one of my main, not just seeing the castle, which is beautiful, highly recommend, but I really wanted to go to the well. And the well there literally has a signpost. It's like Okiku's well and explains the story of Okiku.
Oh, really?
And yeah. And so I think that kind of became more of a tourist attraction.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if there's any real link to the story, but some people claim it is connected to Himeji Castle, the original tale.
Yeah.
And actually, it's so much so that when you go and first get out into Himeji, like the city, there's actually, before the castle, there's a shrine to Okiku as well. So I went to Okiku's shrine. It's sort of like to appease the ghost, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's like a really cool, if you want to do like a little, Japan horror tour, you can kind of visit those wells.
Cool.
But yeah. And then if anyone else is interested in horror stuff, like, so I think you mentioned, and I forget his Japanese name, but Lafcadio Hearn.
Yeah. Yagumo Koizumi.
Yes. So he was Scottish.
He was Irish and Greek, actually.
Oh, yes. Because he was born in Greece or something.
Yeah, mother was the Greek, and then the father is from Ireland, and then he was born in Greek. Then they moved to Ireland. Mother left him, so he was growing up with aunt or whatever, and then ended up moving to US. And then
and then from there he went to Japan eventually. And Lafcadio Hearn is referenced in a lot of stuff. I recommend people looking up his material work because he compiled a lot of Kaidan and everything from Japanese ghost stories to local folk tales and yokai. He really put together a lot in translated into English. And I think a lot of it was from like a lot of stuff he was interpreting from oral tellings, talk to some old lady in a village and get their ghost story from them. So like I have a book there from him too.
Cool.
Which is really
is
cool.
That
and it has
like a new one? You bought that
this is a newer,
like a new copy.
Newer copy. But the original publication, I forget now, but it was this is from 2019. This version.
So it's pretty new then.
But it's like a like a compilation of a lot of like stuff he's translated. Like some of these stories I don't even know. There's like over a dozen, like easily 24 different legends and ghost stories and stuff. Some are really and some might be familiar to people like Yuki Onna or like Snow Woman and stuff like that. One of my favorites actually is do you know this one, Jiki Ninki?
No.
Jiki Ninki is like a really great ghost, like kind of creepy tale about Jiki Ninki are like a type of ghost or demon that eat dead bodies. So like they'll appear when you're maybe preparing somebody for funeral and eat the corpse. And so there's some really like Jinky Ninky is a really cool tale about that. This like traveling monk that visits this village and has to watch over a dead body to kind of be prepared to scare off any jikininki that are trying to eat it. And then I would also recommend, there's a lot of like people are familiar with Shigeru Mizuki.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're obviously grew up with his stuff.
Yeah, like my age, for sure, we grew up with his anime actually called Kitaro. So yeah, this character, the main character Kitaro, he's also one of the yokai. He is
a yokai.
Yeah, he always wear like a yellow and black stripe. It's like a tiger type of like vest, and then he always hides one eyes with his hair. And then actually he has a father, which is one of his eyeball.
Yeah, it's so weird. I just don't understand that part, but
yeah, that's the Kitaro's father. He always on his in hair, and then there's other bunch of like main yokai characters.
Yeah.
Like that, I didn't even get scared, and I watched so many times. Yeah,
and I think Kitaro is more accessible for like, especially yokai are more accessible when you think of like mysterious kind of spooky creatures and stuff. So people can be more warmed up to that kind of idea.
Definitely.
But Shigeru Mizuki, who's a grandfather of manga, one of the few, he's like he actually did a lot of his own research and stuff too, and collecting stories. And so like the book I have here, his Tono Monogatari is like basically like fairy tales or kaidan from his home region. And so it's like just some of them are a little bit like open-ended and don't make sense. But they're always just like, it's just like spooky tales basically he gathered from people like in his home village or from his grandmother, or I don't know if she was his grandmother, but like the old lady that took care of him when he was little. And that's really great because it's a really great insight into like the origin of Kaidan and just like traditional kind of folk tales and stuff like that. And I also have another book from called Red Snow by Susumu Katsumata. And it's also like similar ideas. It's just like each one's like some are about yokai, some are about like ghosts that visit people and spooky occurrences and kind of local folk tales and stuff like that. And a lot of them are very fairy tale like in having like a lesson or something like that too, which follows that same tradition. So there's a lot out there, and these are more modern.
There's so
authors,
many
of course,
you can all right, I think we kind of
that's our overview.
We kind of explain what is Kaidan, and then like from Matt's what he likes, or like the books and everything. So you guys should watch some horror movie tonight to cool you down. Okay.
If you're feeling hot, read some Junji Ito or some of these classic tales, or watch a good J horror. And let us know what some of your favorite
share with us what you like, or like
favorite Kaidan. Even
for sure. All right. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Make sure give us 5 stars if you like, and give us a comment or shoot the message for social media. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.